Hey folks, Nation 1980 here, and this vlog and the next one are kind of all over the place because I intended to make one big vlog, but I realized, it would just be too long, and I decided just to rearrange some sections. So in this vlog, you're going to see a record update, and you're also going to see part one of my recent Blu-ray update. Now, every year, every September, here in Connecticut, there's a car show that's in Southbury, and it's all classics, mostly everything before perhaps the mid-70s. I think a few 80s cars show up there, but it's all classics. It's called the Roaring Twenties Auto Show, and they also have a flea market there, and usually I find some good records. Like in 2008, I got a couple albums at the flea market there. I think in 2012 I might have gotten an album or something. I mean, I go there almost every year, so yeah, to start us off, Blue Swede, Hooked on a Feeling. Anyways, yes, from Guardians of the Galaxy, of course. And as you can see, this is a reissue because the label shows the original release of the single, which was December 1973, but also it's got the Starline label, Super Oldies. It even has the price tag on it still. So yeah, this is a reissue, probably from the mid to late 70s, and of course I saw Guardians of the Galaxy and I absolutely loved it. So, coincidentally, I came across a copy of Hooked on a Feeling on vinyl. So that was definitely really cool. And the B-side was Never My Love. See, that was released much later, August 1974. So yeah, Hooked on a Feeling. And here we've got the Beach Boys Today. Now, it's not in really good condition, but I don't have this album with the cover. I have the album, but it's part of that 1967 3-album set, the Beach Boys Deluxe set, but I figured I'd get my hands on, an actual copy of Today. Now, Today, which was released in early 1975, that was kind of a transitional album for the Beach Boys, I think, when they started really writing this really good, mature, sophisticated pop music. And the Beach Boys, had, I think the previous studio album they did before this, not counting the Christmas album from late 1964, was All Summer Long, and that had what would be the Beach Boys' last surf song, which is called Don't Back Down. That song was on there, and that would be the last Beach Boys song about surfing until Do It Again, which was released in 1968, which, is fascinating because everybody sees the Beach Boys as, that surf band, they're a surf band, and, albums like this, and the albums that came after it, such as Pet Sounds and all those greats, all those classics, they proved that the Beach Boys were more than just, a good surf rock band. They're just a great band. They were America's band. And if you've never really heard all the stuff that the Beach Boys did from early 65 to around 1973 when Holland came out, definitely check that stuff out. It's definitely worth listening to, and you may be surprised. So, yeah, you had a couple hits on here like Dance, 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 When I Grow Up. An early version of Help Me Rhonda. The version of Help Me Rhonda on here is significantly different from the one that became a chart-topping hit. That version can be found on the 1965 album Summer Days and Summer Nights, which was the album that came after this. So, yeah. The version of Help Me Rhonda on here is a little unusual. It fades out and it fades in one section, and it's not as produced as the well-known hit version. And again, don't mind all this scribbling and stuff here. I mean, somebody, if you could see them, wrote the names of the individual band members down here. Oh, and of course it's all taped. So yeah, you had some big hits on here. So basically the difference between this version and the other version is this one is underproduced compared to the version everybody knows and loves. But you've got songs like Please Let Me Wonder and She Knows Me Too Well, which I think are both really good progressive songs for them, and that's when they really started refining their craft, Brian Wilson and his brothers in particular. And I think this would be the last Beach Boys album to have a track on it that was just, horsing around in the studio. And the name of the track is called Bull Session with Big Daddy. And of course, that's back when they had their fan club that you could write to. And this, from the looks of it, this is a mono copy. And these are the other Beach Boys studio albums that were available at the time. Not all of them are listed, though. I mean, they had more albums than just 4 by 1965. They had a ton of albums. Whether it was their debut Surfin' Safari or it was the Christmas album, there was quite a lot of them. Unfortunately, it doesn't have an inner sleeve, so... And I played the record. It plays well for the most part, but you could see lots of scratches and stuff on there. But it played pretty well, so... And of course, this has got to be an original pressing from 65 because it's got the rainbow label. Or it could be a later one because up until, I think, 1968, they still used the rainbow label design. In 1969, that's when they introduced the lime green labels with the bullseye-looking capital logo, which was on the Blue Suede single there. And here we got Creedence Clearwater Revival's Cosmo's Factory, and this was a big album back when it came out in 1970, and it's got some of their most well-known songs on here, such as Looking Out My Back Door, and Traveling Band, Run Through the Jungle, Up Around the Bend. Definitely a classic in every sense. And it's got the inner sleeve, fortunately. The inner sleeve has artwork on it. Look at that. Unfortunately, the record's coming out on the bottom here. And the other Creedence Clearwater Revival albums that you could buy at the time. That's their first one, of course, on the top left-hand corner. And here's the label itself on Fantasy Records. Some writing there. Full radial stereo. It's in pretty good condition, I must say. Have a look at side 2 as well. And here we've got Pure Prairie League, Bustin' Out. This album is well known for the hit song Amy. And that's a great cover right there. Got to admit, I never really listened to Pure Prairie League, so I'm interested to hear some stuff beyond their most well-known songs. Amy's, if you've never heard the song, it's this very catchy, folksy, country kind of number. Definitely worth listening to. And the inner sleeve doesn't have any fancy design on it or anything, so let's just take a look at the labels. It's on RCA Records. His Master's Voice. To start off, we've got even though the heading says 2-movie collection, this is actually a 3-movie collection. We've got The Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad, Fun and Fancy Free, and The Reluctant Dragon. Now, the 2 main attractions on here are package features, and for those who don't know, during the 1940s, when the Disney studio was very low on money due to films not doing well, mainly Fantasia and Bambi, because of World War II, Disney had to opt for, cheaper films, and with his animated features, he started making films that were composed of multiple sequences, like segments, as the making of Fun and Fancy Free on the VHS and Laserdisc and the DVD explained a package feature, or an anthology film, like an omnibus film. Films that strung together stories that were pretty much unrelated to each other into one 70, 80-minute movie. And this double pack is, it's fitting because Fun and Fancy Free and The Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad are the only 2 Disney package features that have 2 stories rather than more than 2 or 3. The other Disney package features like Saludos Amigos and The Three Caballeros, Make My Music, Fun and not Fun and Fancy, what am I saying? Melody Time, those have more than 2 segments in the films. Those films have more than 2 segments. And The Reluctant Dragon is technically Disney's first live-action film. It's a tour through the Disney studio, and there's animated segments such as How to Ride a Horse, and there's a whole scene done in storyboard form, which is called, a sequence, actually. It's called Baby Weems, and then at the end there's The Reluctant Dragon, which is a featurette. So the movie is kind of like a tour of the Walt Disney Studios. I saw it a long time ago. I have to rewatch it. but it's cool that they included it on this set, so that makes it a 3-movie collection. The only downside is that they don't have any bonus features for Ichabod or Fun and Fancy Free. Like Fun and Fancy Free's DVD and the VHS from 1997, they both had a behind-the-scenes special that was like 15 minutes long, and I was wondering, why couldn't they have ported that? I mean, Disney has been horrible when it comes to bonus features these days. They don't port over any of the bonus features from the previous DVD or Laserdisc editions, and that bothers me, because Blu-ray can hold so much, and now they just seem to not care anymore when it comes to certain films on Blu-ray, and not to mention the whole DNR and all the scrubbing and everything, and how awful Sword in the Stone and Mickey's Christmas Carol looked. Fun and Fancy Free is sort of kind of a victim of that, but it's passable enough. Ichabod and Mr. Toad, on the other hand, the picture quality is fine. But, yeah. The package features, if you haven't seen any of them, all I'm going to say is they're films composed of multiple stories. They're not just one single story. Like with Ichabod and Mr. Toad, the 2 stories are introduced. We got Basil Rathbone, who was Sherlock Holmes back in the day. He introduces Ichabod, not Ichabod, he introduces The Wind in the Willows, which is the Mr. Toad segment, as a staple of classic British literature. And then we hear Bing Crosby's voice after that story ends, and Bing Crosby introduces an American classic, which is Sleepy Hollow, as you could see there. Fun and Fancy Free, on the other hand, has this really weird linking device with Jiminy Cricket and ventriloquist Edgar Bergen, his 2 puppets, and child actor Luana Patton, who was also in Disney's Song of the South. So, you gotta take these films for what they are, and, you know, I get the sense that most big Disney fans would like them very much. But for casual viewers, all I will say is they are kind of, like, Fun and Fancy Free definitely feels like a product of its time. It's very, very 40s in places, but I'd say Ichabod and Mr. Toad has held up a lot better. But, yeah, you know, not your typical Disney film where it's a single story. This is, you know, their anthology films, so definitely worth checking out, even if you're a casual Disney fan, because I think the individual segments in these films are pretty good. And Reluctant Dragon, of course, again, it's really, like, if you're a big animation buff, you would love it. Not sure what casual viewers would think of it, though. We got 2 more Disney films here, first of which is Hercules. And Hercules, along with Tarzan, were, if you're a member of the Disney Movie Club, you could get them early. They came out, what was it, August 12th this year? August 12th, I think. On Disney Movie Club, they came out June 10th, and I got both this and Tarzan sometime around July, I think. And if you want Hercules in high definition, yes, definitely pick it up. But if you're looking for bonus features, well, you're not going to get them, because Hercules ports over the bonus features from the 2000 DVD, which was in the Gold Classic Collection, and that DVD was pretty much bare bones. So I think there's only a making of special on this set. But yeah, worth picking up if you just want the movie in, you know, really stunning HD. The picture quality is pretty good, the audio quality is pretty good. And yeah, Hercules. The Tarzan set fares a little better in terms of bonus features. It's got good picture quality, it's got good audio, and it actually uses the artwork from the 2005 Special Edition DVD, whereas the Hercules cover you saw there, that artwork was new. For some reason, they didn't make new art for Tarzan. They just used the artwork from the previous home media release. But yeah, as you can see here, there are more bonus features. But the Tarzan DVD from 2000, the really awesome collector's edition, which I hope to get my hands on sometime soon, that had so many bonus features. And again, why couldn't they port them all over to the Blu-ray? Like, do they not have enough money to convert the bonuses? Do they think that, you know, people like me who love the bonus features are just a niche market in a way? Like, it's just a small community of fans? It's like, what is it? I mean, they've gone all out on the previous Blu-ray sets of certain films, but nowadays they're just really not doing well, except for the Diamond Editions. They load the Diamond Editions to the brim with bonus features, but come on! And a few words on these 2 Disney films, since I kind of rush the filming of this section of the vlog. Hercules. Actually, believe it or not, Hercules was a film I had seen Hercules in theaters, but I was like 4.5 when Hercules came out. So there was only so much of it I could remember. All I could remember from Hercules was what I saw on the previews on my Disney VHS tapes growing up, like Toy Story and the Masterpiece edition of The Jungle Book, and, VHS releases like that. And Hercules was just one, like, when I was a kid, it didn't really interest me that much. Like, I remember renting it as I got a little older and started checking out Disney movies that I hadn't seen before. And you gotta remember, and here's one thing, I was like maybe 9, 10 at the time. When I was like in 3rd grade, I believe. I think it was even before that. Maybe like, yeah, I was in 3rd grade. I was like around 7 to 8 years old. I was on this kick now because I was really starting to get into Disney. And I wanted to check out Disney movies I hadn't seen. So I think one of those weekends I rented Hercules. And it just didn't hold my interest. I don't know what it was back then, but it did not hold my interest. The only thing I remember about it was the little Easter egg, little Scar Easter egg in the movie. There's a scene where this character right here, Philatides, he uses, there's a scene where Hercules is posing with a skin of Scar from the Lion King on him while this artist is painting it on a vase, is painting a picture of him with the Scar skin on the vase, and then there's a scene where Phil has it, and that's the only thing I remembered from that viewing of the movie. It just, for some reason, it just didn't interest me. So, not too long ago, I finally, and this is the problem, Hercules was released on DVD once here in 2000. There was no DVD re-release, no special edition, no nothing. And I never got that DVD or the VHS, even though I've been a Disney VHS collector for so many years. I never really got my hands on the Masterpiece edition of Hercules, so my life was Hercules-less until a year ago, actually, when I finally watched the movie. I know, I'm so horrible. I finally watched the movie all the way through, and I found it to be enjoyable. Not the best of the Renaissance films, but I think it deserves a little more credit. To me, and this is what I said after I saw it, it's kind of like a diet Aladdin in a way. It's got Aladdin's energy. It has its own style going. It's a little more abstract looking. The artwork is based, I hope I'm pronouncing his name right, Gerald Scarfe? Is it Scarfe or is it just Scarf? Anyways, the visual style is very much, it was based on his artwork, kind of like how Sleeping Beauty is Ivan Durrell artwork. And it just really sticks to that style. And there's this really good review of the movie on Animation Scoop, which you should check out. And it kind of points out why I think the movie works, and it also points out why it possibly didn't do well back when it came out in 1997. I mean, it didn't flop, but it didn't do as well as Disney had hoped it would. And all box office and reception aside, I think it's good. I think it's got some problems, particularly in the story and maybe the third act. I thought the third act of the movie was really rushed. But, a lot of other things work. The humor is really good. I love the style of it. I like the songs even. I thought the songs were pretty good. The story is alright. I think it suffers a bit because it's basically cut and paste from the other Renaissance movies. Although it has its own little variations thrown in here and there, it pretty much is a Disney Renaissance movie. It fits all the stereotypes. You got, the hero, you got kind of a love story going. You got the big battle with the villain at the end. There's got to be an evil villain, and you got the comic relief here in the form of Pain and Panic. Although a lot of it works in this movie because this movie is very comedic and kind of irreverent, just like Aladdin was. It's just Aladdin goes an extra mile. It goes the distance. This movie, it needed a little more polish, but it's good. And if you've never seen Hercules and you're interested in Disney to an extent, yeah, definitely check out Hercules. I mean, if you like Disney movies in general, like, you're just a casual fan, you should check out the ones you haven't seen because chances are they may surprise you. So Hercules is no exception. It's got really good animation. It's very stylistic. The humor is good, and the story's pretty solid for the most part. So, yeah. And Tarzan, I think, fares better than Hercules. I think its story is a little stronger, even though it does kind of follow the Renaissance template to a T, particularly in the third act, I think. And there's some comic relief in it that I think kind of clashes with the more, not should I say serious tone of the movie, but the more artistic side of the movie. And I'm totally in the minority here, but I think a lot of the Disney Renaissance films kind of have this problem where they feel like they're the Walt films. They're like works of art. They're very beautiful. They're very, they try to tell a good story that appeals to both adults and kids, but at the same time, they throw in this sort of humor and this sort of tone that kind of goes against that. And I know that's a complete, I know that's a very crazy opinion, but I'm not saying they're bad because of this. I just think I kind of dock points off of them because of this. I think my favorite Disney films are the Walt ones. The best Walt films like Pinocchio, Dumbo, Fantasia, Bambi, Cinderella, Snow White, all those. Well, I have most of the Renaissance films in the second tier on my list, but if you're in the second tier on my list, you're doing something right. So Tarzan has a lot of great stuff in its favor. I absolutely love the way they tell the story, and I like all the stuff with Tarzan and Jane. I like the action sequences. I think the blending of computer animation and traditional animation, the deep canvas, I think that still holds up today, even though it was made in 1999 and you could still tell what's, CGI and what isn't. It still holds up today, and I'd like to see hand-drawn go that direction. Paperman, stuff like that hints at hand-drawn and CG being combined, and imagine what they could do with the tech now. They could really make it look great where it doesn't, the CGI isn't, well, it's not as noticeable. I think they could really do something innovative, and we see that in things like Paperman and the upcoming Feast, which is the short film that'll be attached before Big Hero 6 in theaters, the new Walt Disney Animation Studios film, which looks great. It looks really, really exciting. If you haven't seen a trailer for the movie, look up the New York Comic-Con trailer. That's the best trailer for the movie, I think. And other things that work about Tarzan, it's just the action of it is really exciting. The scope of it is huge. I like the Phil Collins songs a great deal. I mean, a lot of people hate the Phil Collins songs. They think You'll Be in My Heart is the bane of their existence, but I like all the Phil Collins songs in the movie. The only song I don't care for too much is Trash in the Camp because it's kind of out of place in the movie. I think it's way too goofy and way too fast, and just, I think stylistically it just clashes with the rest of the movie. I know it's a minority opinion, but I kind of lump that in the comic relief that does tend to be a bit overdone in the Renaissance films. And in Tarzan, I think it overstays its welcome in the form of that scene and a couple other moments. But on the whole, most of, all the strengths pretty much outdo the flaws. And Tarzan is just really good, and it's kind of sad to see that Disney has this sort of thing where they not really shun per se, but they don't shed too much light on films that aren't, Lion King or Snow White or Beauty and the Beast. It's like, yeah, those films may be their most popular, but come on. You gotta start, popularizing films like Tarzan and Hercules, Mulan, Hunchback of Notre Dame especially, and, films from this, like The Rescuers. The Rescuers is really good. The Rescuers Down Under is really good. They gotta, The Emperor's New Groove, they gotta just take those movies and they gotta put them in the spotlight more. Especially something like Tarzan. I don't understand how they ditched Tarzan. Tarzan was a huge hit back when it came out. It wasn't the biggest animated film on its release, but it was still really, really big. And at the time, it was Disney Animation's third highest grossing film, behind The Lion King and Aladdin. So it baffles me why they don't plug this movie. It's just... But anyways, Hercules, while it's kind of a diet Aladdin, it's still entertaining and it has there's a lot to like in it. And Tarzan, despite some little flaws and some out-of-place elements, it's a stunning, well-told animated feature.